Remember when a song would come on the radio and everything stopped? When someone would shout, "Turn it up!" Because this was the song, the one that defined that summer, that party, that drive with the windows down. The 1970s gave us glitter, disco balls, gospel rock, soft harmonies, and brass-powered anthems. But not every artist who struck gold stayed there. Some caught lightning in a bottle, just once. One perfect chorus, one unforgettable hook, one moment where the entire world was listening. And then, silence. These are the one-hit wonders that defined a generation, even if they only did it once. Number 10, Spirit in the Sky, Norman Greenbaum, 1970. It starts with that guitar, fuzzy, distorted, instantly recognizable. Before the vocals even begin, you know exactly what song it is. In October 1969, Norman Greenbaum walked into a studio with an unusual idea: write a gospel song. There was just one twist. He wasn't a gospel artist. In fact, he wasn't even Christian. He simply thought the genre sounded powerful and believed he could write one himself. So he sat down and wrote the entire song in about 15 minutes. At first, the label hesitated. The song was long. The lyrics were openly religious. It didn't fit neatly into radio formulas. But after 2 earlier singles failed, the company finally released it. And then everything changed. Spirit in the Sky climbed to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in April 1970, staying in the top 100 for 15 weeks. It hit number 1 in the UK and sold more than 2 million copies worldwide. Even John Lennon publicly praised it during a 1970 interview. No small compliment. The signature sound came from Greenbaum's Fender Telecaster, modified with a built-in fuzz circuit. That gritty riff became one of the most iconic guitar openings of the decade, but he never matched it. Follow-up singles barely charted. By the mid-1970s, he was dropped from his label. Frustrated, he left the music industry and worked as a cook in Northern California. Yet the song never disappeared. It later appeared in more than 30 major films, including Apollo 13 and Guardians of the Galaxy. Funeral directors once reported it as one of the most requested songs for memorial services, second only to Danny Boy. One song, one moment, and a lifetime of royalties from 3 minutes of magic. Number 9, Afternoon Delight, Starland Vocal Band, 1976. When everything's a little clearer in the light of the summer of 1976 felt endless, and everywhere you went, the radio, the grocery store, the beach, those harmonies were floating through the air. Afternoon Delight. Bright, playful, just innocent enough, and just suggestive enough. The title came from a phrase songwriter Bill Danoff spotted on a restaurant happy hour menu in Washington, D.C. He thought it sounded catchy. What began as a casual idea slowly turned into a polished pop tune, one he worked on for nearly 6 months. The band itself was built on harmony in more ways than one. It consisted of 2 married couples, Bill and Taffy Danoff, and John Carroll and Margot Chapman. Their voices blended seamlessly, creating layered vocals that felt warm, intimate, and effortless. Released in 1976, the song soared to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 on July 10, 1976, holding the top spot for 2 weeks. Then came the awards. At the 1977 Grammy Awards, the song received 5 nominations. The group won Best New Artist, beating out a then-rising rock band called Boston, a decision that, in hindsight, surprised many. For a moment, Starland Vocal Band seemed unstoppable. They even landed their own CBS summer variety show in 1977. It ran for 6 weeks and featured a young, largely unknown writer and performer named David Letterman. Night is always gonna be here anyway. But lightning doesn't always strike twice. Their follow-up albums failed to generate another major hit. Radio moved on. Trends shifted. By 1981, the band had broken up, and both marriages within the group eventually ended as well. Still, when that gentle guitar intro begins and the chorus swells, it's instantly 1976 again. One summer, one chorus, one unforgettable harmony. Number 8. Play That Funky Music, Wild Cherry, 1976. By the mid-1970s, disco was taking over, dance floors were packed, mirror balls were spinning, and traditional rock bands were struggling to keep up. Wild Cherry was one of those bands. They were a hard rock group from Ohio, grinding it out in clubs, until one night in Pittsburgh changed everything. During a show, a voice from the crowd shouted something that would become music history. Are you gonna play some funky music, white boys?
I never had no problems, yeah.
Lead singer Rob Parisi grabbed a pen and scribbled down the phrase on a drink order pad. In about 5 minutes, the skeleton of the song was written. It wasn't just clever, it was honest. The lyrics captured exactly what they were going through, a rock band being pushed to adapt in the disco era. Originally, the band planned to release it as the B-side to another track, but when the record label heard it, they knew. This was the hit. Released in April 1976, Play That Funky Music exploded. It reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and the R&B chart on September 18, 1976, staying at the top for 3 weeks. The single went platinum. Their self-titled album climbed to number 5 on the Billboard 200. For a brief moment, Wild Cherry wasn't just surviving disco, they were leading it. They performed at the Grammy Awards. They were nominated for Best New Artist. They won an American Music Award.
Burning down the one-night stands.
And then, the follow-up singles failed to crack the top 40. Subsequent albums couldn't recreate the magic. By 1979, the band quietly disbanded, but the groove never disappeared. Even today, that opening guitar riff fills wedding receptions, retro nights, and party playlists around the world. One shout from the crowd, one spontaneous idea, one undeniable funk anthem. Number 7, In the Summertime, Mungo Jerry, 1970. Some songs don't just describe summer, they are summer. In the Summertime doesn't open with a dramatic build. It doesn't need to. A loose rhythm, hand claps, a playful vocal, and suddenly, you're there. Windows down, sun blazing, nowhere important to be. Written by frontman Ray Dorset in just a few minutes, reportedly while recovering from a broken leg, the song had a carefree, almost homemade energy. It featured unusual instrumentation for a pop hit at the time, including kazoo and jug band-style percussion.
In the summertime, when the weather is hot, you can stretch right up.
Released in 1970, it became a global phenomenon. The song reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States, but internationally it went even further, hitting number 1 in 26 countries and eventually selling an estimated 30 million copies worldwide. That makes it one of the best-selling singles of all time.
Go out and see what you can find.
And yet, in America, lightning only struck once. Mungo Jerry continued to have success in the United Kingdom, releasing albums and charting singles throughout the 1970s. But in the US, they were forever tied to that one perfect summer anthem. Perhaps that's fitting. Some songs aren't meant to evolve, they're meant to freeze a feeling in time. And every time that laid-back rhythm kicks in, it's 1970 again. Number 6, Love Grows, Where My Rosemary Goes. Edison Lighthouse, 1970.
Love grows where my rosemary goes.
Some hits are born in garages, others are carefully manufactured in studios. Edison Lighthouse was never meant to be a traditional band. It was a studio creation, assembled by hit songwriters Barry Mason and Tony McCauley, who had a simple goal: craft the perfect pop single. They brought in session singer Tony Burrows to record the vocals. The musicians were largely studio professionals. When the song became a hit, a separate lineup had to be formed just to perform it live. But none of that mattered once the needle dropped. Love Grows, Where My Rosemary Goes, is pure bubblegum pop. Bright, irresistible, and built around a melody that refuses to leave your head. Released in early 1970, the song climbed to number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States and reached number 1 in the UK. Its upbeat optimism stood in contrast to the heavier rock sounds dominating the era. For a few months, it was everywhere, but the magic was fragile. Tony Burrows soon left to pursue other projects. A few additional singles were released under the Edison Lighthouse name, but none came close to matching the debut's success. The group eventually dissolved, and most of the musicians returned to session work. Interestingly, Burrows became known as something of a one-hit wonder specialist, scoring hits with multiple different groups around 1970, often appearing on television representing different bands in the same year. Still, Love Grows remains frozen in that golden moment. A perfect melody, a manufactured band, and a chorus that still feels like sunshine. Number 5, Brandy, You're a Fine Girl, A Looking Glass, 1972.
Pass the time away, talk about.
Some hits make you dance, others tell a story you never forget. Brandy, You're a Fine Girl, is a story. Released in 1972 by New Jersey band Looking Glass, the song paints a vivid picture of a harbor town, a loyal barmaid named Brandy, and a sailor who loves the sea more than he could ever love her. It's romantic. It's bittersweet, and it feels cinematic. Lead singer Elliot Lurie delivered the lyrics with just the right balance of warmth and melancholy. The distinctive guitar line and bright piano riff gave the song a polished, radio-friendly sound, but it was the narrative that made it unforgettable. In August 1972, Brandy climbed to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, holding the top spot for 1 week. It became one of the most played songs on adult contemporary radio and remains a staple on classic rock playlists decades later. But for Looking Glass, that was the peak. Follow-up singles failed to connect in the same way. Musical trends were shifting quickly in the early 70s, and by 1974, the band had disbanded. Elliot Lurie later found success behind the scenes as a songwriter and music executive. Yet, as a performer, he would always be tied to one harbor, one sailor, and one unforgettable chorus. Some songs are hits, others become legends, and Brandy still feels like a postcard from a dock at sunset. Number 4, Seasons in the Sun, Terry Jacks, 1974. Not every hit makes you feel good. Some make you feel everything. Seasons in the Sun was unlike anything else dominating the charts in 1974. While disco rhythms and upbeat rock ruled the airwaves, this song told a quiet, heartbreaking story. A man saying goodbye to his friends and loved ones as he faces death. It was originally based on a Belgian song from the early 1960s, but Terry Jacks reworked it into something softer, more reflective, and deeply personal.
Think of me and I'll be there. We had joy.
Released in late 1973 and exploding in early 1974, the song reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March 1974, where it stayed for 3 weeks. It became a global sensation, selling an estimated 14 million copies worldwide. The orchestration was gentle, the melody was simple, but the emotional weight was undeniable. For many listeners, it was a song you couldn't hear without feeling a lump in your throat.
There we had joy, we had fun, we had seasons.
And yet, despite its enormous success, Terry Jacks never replicated that level of impact in the United States. He had earlier success in Canada with his band The Poppy Family, but as a solo artist in America, this was his defining moment. One farewell, one fragile melody. One song that proved even the heaviest themes could top the charts. Number 3, Kung Fu Fighting, Carl Douglas, 1974. Sometimes the biggest hits aren't planned, they just happen. In 1974, martial arts films were exploding in popularity. Theaters were packed with audiences watching high-flying kicks and dramatic fight scenes. During a recording session in London, Carl Douglas had already finished laying down the planned tracks for the day. There was extra studio time left, so he and producer Bidu decided to record something quick, a novelty song inspired by the Kung Fu craze. They wrote and recorded it in about 10 minutes. It was never meant to be the star of the session. But when Kung Fu Fighting was released, it became unstoppable. In December 1974, the song reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, staying there for 2 weeks. It went on to sell more than 11 million copies worldwide, becoming one of the best-selling singles of the decade. The catchy rhythm, the playful vocal delivery, the instantly recognizable "everybody was Kung Fu fighting." It became more than a song. It became a cultural moment. Dance floors filled with mock martial arts moves. Radio stations played it constantly. The world leaned into the fun. But like many novelty hits, the momentum didn't last. Carl Douglas had modest chart success in the UK afterward, but in the United States, he was forever associated with that one infectious anthem. One spontaneous studio decision, one global craze, one chorus the world still knows by heart. #2. Mockingbird, Carly Simon and James Taylor, 1974. When two stars collide, you expect fireworks. In 1974, real-life couple Carly Simon and James Taylor stepped into the studio together to record Mockingbird, a playful reimagining of the 1963 hit originally made famous by Ides and Charlie Fox. What they created wasn't just a cover. It was a conversation. They traded verses back and forth with teasing energy, their voices blending with effortless chemistry. You could hear the affection in every line, the kind that can't be rehearsed. Released in early 1974, Mockingbird climbed to #5 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March of that year, becoming one of the most memorable duets of the decade. Both artists were already established superstars with multiple solo hits. But as a duo, this would be their only major chart success together. And that's what makes it feel special. It captures a moment, not just in music history, but in their lives. A snapshot of a relationship at its peak. A harmony frozen in time. They would later divorce in 1983, but that recording remains untouched. Two voices. One marriage. One joyful duet that still feels alive whenever it plays. #1, Vehicle, The Ides of March, 1970. Some songs don't ease their way onto the radio. They charge in. Released in 1970, Vehicle hit like a blast of brass. The horns were bold, the rhythm was urgent, and lead singer Jim Peterick's gritty, commanding voice demanded attention from the very first line. It didn't sound like anything else climbing the charts at the time. The song shot up to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May 1970, selling over 1 million copies. Its horn-driven rock energy made it a staple of AM radio and cemented it as one of the most recognizable openings of the decade. There was even a rumor that Peterick's vocal style was inspired by Blood, Sweat and Tears frontman David Clayton Thomas, though Peterick always maintained it was simply his natural delivery. For a moment, the Ides of March seemed poised for long-term success, but follow-up releases never matched the power of Vehicle. While the band continued recording and touring throughout the 1970s, they never returned to the top 10. Yet the story didn't completely end there. Jim Peterick would later co-found the band Survivor in the 1980s and co-write Eye of the Tiger, giving him a second chapter of chart-topping success. Still, for the Ides of March as a group, Vehicle was the summit. One explosive intro, one unforgettable horn section, one song that roared and never faded from classic rock radio.